Hello, this is Dennis Seetsma, Dennis John Seetsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. It's about 1:02 p.m. on September 27th, 2023. It's a Wednesday. It's about 102 degrees in the sun. The subject of this video is my Success 200 project boat, which is ready for its next sea trial, but I'm not going to take it out till I got somebody to go with me, and because I don't like to go alone, and I need a tow vehicle, so I got to get the van working, and the van's got a lot of trouble, but that's a separate video. I tried combining video segments and it just doesn't work. I like to stay on one subject. But anyway, I'm going to start the engine, and the reason why you want to do this often and run it on these water ears or water muffs, or if there's a technical name for it, please let me know. I don't know what the name is, and I have to lay this clock down or it'll fall in the water here. But anyway, this is my MerCruiser 3.7 liter 4-cylinder engine that I've had since it was new in 1989, and the boat is a Beretta Success 200 made by Melhart Products in Conway, Arkansas back in '89. Of course, they've gone out of business, but I'm going to turn first the battery on, and I have the switch so I can go to battery 1 or 2 or both. And I was pressure cleaning this boat the other day and it cleaned up, but I need to do more work on it. But if I need to do any more vinyl work, I'm going to get the new vinyl made by oh, what's the name of it? Can't think of it. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. I'll think of it. But you want to run the blower for a few minutes and sniff around and see if you got any gas. Do-it-yourself work is done at your own risk. Death or injury can result. And I always check the oil first, because one time I started it, it had no oil because the oil pan had rusted out. And that's the reason you want to run it often and do oil changes as often as you can stand, because just a little bit of water, coolant, anything, moisture can get down into the engine oil pan and sit there on the bottom and rust out your pan. That's very expensive and very difficult. And always use fully charged batteries and good batteries. If the batteries aren't good, get rid of them. Change them, because your battery can damage your electrical system. And you see I got one new battery here, May 7th, from AutoZone. I got 1,000 cold cranking amps. Starter type is number 1. Number 2 is older. That's 1023, and that's a group 24 battery, and probably around 600 or 800 amps. And this engine, this particular one, doesn't take more than 450 cranking amps to start. So you check the oil, you check the coolant. It's got coolant in there, and I check my power steering fluid. And most often when you have an engine problem, you don't have ample flow. It's a fuel delivery problem, which is why I always pump gas out of here and use it for my farm equipment often, and check for contamination and change that water separating fuel filter as often as I can stand, and keep fresh gas in the boat. I can pump out the gas using an inexpensive, affordable transfer pump I buy online. And anyway, it's Glen Raven Industries, Glen Raven. They make this new type vinyl, and I haven't used it yet. This is older vinyl here. And this is PVC as the core. All new work I have done on this boat, when I do vinyl work or have it done, I use this expanded PVC, which is better than plywood. And the same thing with the bolsters. This is all expanded PVC. But you want to make sure that the engine runs and starts, and because every time you start it, you lubricate it. And if there's any problem, you find it here when you're in where you can work on it, as opposed to out at sea or at the dock, when you might be embarrassing yourself with other people using the dock facilities on a busy day. And I'd love to put this in the water, but I'd have to rent a truck to do it, or find a friend that has something that can tow 5,000 pounds. This boat doesn't weigh 5,000 pounds, but you get my meaning. And okay, I finally found the right key. And so I can pump the gas, I hit the center button on this Quicksilver Commander 4000 Generation 2. I had new controls done. Make sure you have, if this switch is flipped, you'll lose voltage at the helm. See? A lot of people say, oh, it won't start, I got no spark, it won't crank. Well, you got this lanyard here. Oops. No oil pressure. That audio system works well, and I haven't never knock on wood, I haven't had to repair it since it was installed. I installed it myself. Anyway, that's enough of the blower. No, the horn works. Barely. I can't keep a good horn in this thing. And I got nav lights, and then I got bilge. I've got two bilge systems. I got a 2000 GPM for emergencies that I can manually do the bilge, and then this automatic system, and they're wired independently, and I use Pacer Group wire, Pacer Group online marine wire. And if I can't get it in Pacer Group, then I get it from Anchor Marine. But here's the other system. And man, what's wrong with this switch? I think I need a new switch here. It looks like it's not good, but that's the one that came with it. So anyway, to put this without putting it in gear, which is the way I like to start it, let me hold the camera with my knees here. Okay, do that. And I had new controls and cables. These are Generation 2 cables done, and I had it done professionally because there's a liability if you're using a boat at the dock and you have a problem. And of course I don't want it to go full throttle like that, but I pump it to get the gas pumped a little bit, and then I crank it. I can't hold the camera and do this, but I'll have to turn it off if it starts and revs too fast. But when I turn it on, I got voltage, I got plenty of fuel, and no oil pressure, no temp. So we'll see what happens when I start it. Okay, I got no oil pressure. Let's pump it a little bit, see what happens. Okay, it started. And didn't stay running, so I'll juice it a little bit more. I had the choke set on this full open because this electric choke is just so fiddly. Okay, oil pressure came up to almost 40 psi. It's like 35 right now. Now, if your batteries were bad or weak, the electrical system on this thing would get fried because it's only 40 amps rating. So you don't want to do that. If your batteries are bad, get rid of them. Take them somewhere, get them tested, replace them. But I like to run my engine as often as I can. Just let it warm up nicely. And we're around 35 psi. Temperature's good, fuel's full, voltage is right at 15. Now a fully charged battery will read around 14.25 for a flooded cell battery. And this engine was made from 1976 until 1989 by MerCruiser. It's a 3.7 liter, and you can look on my Facebook group, 3.7 liter, if you need any technical advice, or trying to find parts, or you got something you want to sell or buy. And my audience is global, so say where you are in the world and what can we do for you. If you post anything, start off that way, please. Say, hey, I want to buy a 3.7, or I got a 3.7 I want to sell. It's a 4-cylinder engine, 224 cubic inches. This engine was pretty much defamed in the years it was made. I got to make sure that the muff didn't come off. The muff didn't, and I'm running on battery 1, so I want to do this again with battery 2, and then with both batteries. But people always say, well, why do I have more water on one side or the other? Well, it's because of the design. If it was a V8 or a V6, you'd have equal. But because it's an I4, an open deck I4, it only comes out, most of it on the starboard side, on the captain's side, where you'll get the most water. And that's normal for this engine. People always ask that question ad nauseum. The other question is, what spark plugs do I use? Well, MerCruiser recommended 4 different types over the years, and some of them aren't even made anymore. So I go with NGK myself, and I always use the lanyard because I've seen people cut up in the hospital when I was in the hospital. Well, once we warm it up a little bit, I'll try to put it in gear, and watch how smooth the shift is. If you got good cables and everything's right, she'll go from neutral into gear like silk, like that just did. That was from neutral to forward. But if you have a boat, buy a way to charge your batteries. Take your batteries out of your boat so somebody doesn't steal them. Take them back to the garage or the house, put a charger on it. Don't try to charge your batteries with your boat's electric. You're going to fry it. Cause all kinds of damage. That's my opinion, because I've seen it happen ad nauseum. Oh, my electrical system burned up. Yeah, a piece of junk. Yeah, well, bad batteries. We'll go into reverse here in a minute. I love running this thing. It's so smooth. I want to take it out in the water. Now I need to do more pressure washing and cleaning, and I need to redo the gel coat. But I just don't have time, people. I wish I did, but I'm so busy with family, and you know, I have so many projects too. Like, I got to trim that hedge back there. Neighbor put the hedge right in on the property line. They won't trim it. I've asked them. They just, you know, they cause me a problem, and they don't care, because that's the way people are. They don't care. So thank you very much, neighbors, for putting in a hedge and putting it on the property. You could have put it on your side of the property line, and the fence is on my side by 6 inches, because I do things legally, and I put the foundations, you know, it's a 10-inch foundation, so it had to be at least 5 inches, so I did 6. Anyway, let's go into reverse, see what happens. Smooth, baby. And see, at a dock, you'll be going from neutral to forward, reverse, you know, you'll be doing that several times, you know, and you don't want the engine to stop running. And this has a mechanism they call easy shift. MerCruiser does. And I rebuilt that carburetor myself. And the engine I had redone professionally, years ago. I don't know, 2005. Local company here, Herco, Hialeah Engine Rebuilders. I think they've moved to Kendall now, but I haven't called them recently. But 2 brothers, and they did an excellent job rebuilding it for me. And I would have done it myself, but I was working a lot of overtime at the time, and I didn't. Here on the farm, I only have limited storage. I got a small wood building here, 8 by 16, and I got another one that's a 10 by 10. And yeah, I could build more, but I don't want to. When I sell this place, you know, when I'm dead, or my heirs sell it, I hope I never have to sell it. I've been here since 1977, and I planted all these trees, and I built the house, and I developed the property, and I didn't do it for profit. I did it because I enjoy it. Anyway, let's stop it for a minute, and let's go over and put it on both batteries, because this switch does off 1 and 2. Let's see what 2 does. 2 starts it. But again, load test your batteries. Take the battery out. Take it to a place that sells batteries. Ask them to test it. And if you got a bad battery, replace it. It's not worth burning up your electrical system. And people argue all the time with me. I'm an electrical engineer, people, electronics engineer with over 60 years experience in industry and private sector. I've repaired a lot of battery powered systems over the years, all the way to tube type stuff. Anyway, let's see if it starts on 2. Okay, 2 worked fine. Let's see what happens with both. I'm testing my work here. I solder all my connections. I use crimp connectors judiciously, but I do crimp them and then I solder them. I don't trust crimp. I worked in air traffic control systems for 42 years for FAA, and I didn't like my wiring to fail ever, because human life did depend on it. And it's probably still in use today, many of the things I installed for FAA. Let's see if it starts on both. Oh boy, it liked it on both. A lot better than on one. So I'll charge both batteries again and test them with the load tester. Anytime people say, oh, that 100 amp load toaster, they call it, that's no way to test it. Well, yeah, but I'm not trying to test it at the cranking. The best way to find out if it works is like you saw, just crank it. Because then it's pulling the full 450 amps or 500 amps. Whereas a toaster, biggest one I get is 130. And I like the OTC tools, OTC, online. And I order their toaster. And they got one for 100 amps, and there's a knockoff you can buy at Harbor Freight for a lot cheaper. But I like quality stuff that'll last, you know, beyond my lifetime. Somebody else will get it and enjoy it. But don't mess around with your batteries, people. Replace them. Replace them. You know, take care of your stuff, and it'll work. On a holiday weekend when the place is busy, that's no time to find out your battery's dead. Anyway, let's shift it a little more. Now you might ask, why am I doing this so slow? Safety on a stern drive. If you're going in forward, jackrabbit starts are not good for safety reasons. And it's not good for the engine and the stern driving. I mean, don't do it. Now, if you go in reverse, you know, you're going to force all that water into the engine. And if your water shutter, and everybody says, oh, water shutters, you can't maintain them. Well, I got a very short service life, and I check mine all the time. You can use a borescope and stick it up the tailpipe to check your water shutter. But if your water shutter's bad, all that water will go into your cylinders and damage your engine. So no jackrabbit starts forward or reverse on a stern drive. On an outboard, that's different. The power head on the outboard is way high off the water compared to a stern drive engine that's lower. And you know, if you ever suspect you got a problem, first thing you want to do is take out all the spark plugs. That's the first thing. And turn it over with a socket and a ratchet by slowly. Don't use a starter, because if you got a problem you don't know about it, like a stuck piston, or you got coolant or water, seawater, or you got a stuck, you know, all these things that could happen, you're going to bend a rod and cause havoc. You're going to have a whole engine rebuilt. And that's why we have so many problems with stern drive engines. Is not that they're not as reliable as an outboard, because people don't behave. People don't know how to behave. They don't know how to behave with an outboard. And an outboard can tolerate a lot more abuse than a stern drive. So let's see what it does in reverse again. See if it kills out and makes me a liar. Now in the past I did notice that the fuel pump's a little anemic, but they sell an adapter, Mike's Carburetor online. They sell an adapter. Mike's Carburetor, they're great people to do business with. Very knowledgeable, very helpful, great technical support. Mike'sCarburetor.com. They sell an adapter, and I can change the amount of shot on the fuel pump if I want to. But this is working so well, I think I'm just going to call it good until next time I rebuild the carburetor. And I rebuild the carburetor if any contamination, but I always do these other things to make sure I don't get, but even the best of us can make a mistake and get contamination. And it happened to me. I had a brand new fuel tank I installed in here a couple years ago. Sunshine Marine and Medley did it for me. They fabricated it to my specs. I put it in, and the dang gasket on the fuel sender, it was a good sender too, it was Moeller Marine. The gasket failed, and that let contamination get in. Now I am looking for somebody, I'm going to have to do probably plastic and duct tape to fix that, but I'm looking for a replacement for this thing that was done in plastics back in 1989 by whoever did the work. So I need that, and I need the, let's see, what else do I need? Let me turn this off. So, you know, good test, didn't overheat, got good fuel. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. I forgot to turn. Anytime you do this, you want to turn the steering some back and forth. Exercise the power steering and make sure nothing is frozen up on you. Let's try to do that if I can find the right key. I'm gonna put red paint on the right key, because one of these keys is for the glove box. There we go. I'll put paint on it or something. Alright, now I turn it. Okay, and it was stiff, but it's not frozen. And the more you do this, the better it is. And I want to check to make sure the trim works. All the way up, all the way down. Okay, it's all the way down. Okay, the trim sender is not working, and usually what happens, that's because a bullet connector comes loose. They got bullet connectors. I need to cut those off and solder those wires together. Use a good old Western Union splice is what I need to do, and get rid of those connectors, because when these senders go bad, you got to replace the whole works anyway. And that's a challenge, but I've done it a couple of times already. And that's a whole different video segment than this. But this is how I maintain my boat in the yard here. And so far it's worked for me for a long time. And so nothing goes crazy while I turn it off. So no battery, no power, no way, no how. And so my ignition switch doesn't go bad. I take the keys out. And but I got to put this somewhere to protect it, so it doesn't suffer any more UV damage. That's how I broke it to begin with. I put it out here and I let it sit and get UV damage to it. And one of the things you want to do is you want to scrub these. You don't want these slick, because you can slip and fall like I do sometimes. So pressure wash that real good. Get any oil off there. But got to make sure that the up-down pump works. And on my boat, I take it out from time to time and work on it on the bench and test it. It's supposed to put out 600 psi, 600 up or down on the bench with a good 12-volt battery. So here's your Beretta logo that I need to find some. This was made of plastic, and they did a beautiful job, whoever did it, back in 1989, but I can't find anybody today. I've taken this to several plastics places and they look at me like I'm stupid. So I got to find a custom shop that does this kind of work. But for now, we're gonna come over here and turn off the water, and later on we'll do some more pressure cleaning and whatever, and I'm going to put some more herbicide in the parking spot, and I got some plant growing inside the boat, so I got to get rid of that too. But Raven Industries, they make the Sunbrella top, and Sunbrella is a great product, and they even take it back if you don't want it to go to the landfill. Send it back to them, but call them first, get an authorization, and then you have to pay for shipping, but they'll take it back and they'll repurpose it, and it won't go in a landfill that way. Glen Raven Industries, Glen Raven Incorporated. I looked them up online. Great people. I met them at the boat show, talked to the owner a couple times, and that's where they told me about the new vinyl product they got out. But I got to rub-a-dub-dub, scrub up this. This is the Wooden Shoes 2, is what I named it. I may rechristen it something in the future, but she cleaned up real nice with the pressure washer. But sometimes you got to just scrub, and I love this Sure-Hold brush that Barry makes. Barry owns the company. The company was around forever, Sure-Hold, and this one's showing a little age. But the great thing about the Sure-Hold brush, this is their classic brush, is it doesn't, when you're working hard, it doesn't come apart on you. It's got this pin and aluminum, and they really made it sturdy for people that work for a living, the boat detailers. And if you ever have a boat tip the guy, buy him lunch, guy or girl. It's hard work, people, hard work. Anyway, give me a thumbs up if you like my video. Sorry, I'm trying to see the red dot, make sure I'm not talking to a dead camera. That's happened a few times. This camera's really old. But give me a thumbs up, people, if you found any content here of value. I don't do this content for to be monetized, because I don't have enough subscribers. And you don't have to subscribe if you don't want to. I don't care. But if you like the content, give me a thumbs up so I know I'm helping somebody by doing these videos. And if you have ideas for content, say, hey Dennis, do a video on this or that, let me know, and I'll try. That's all I can do, is promise to try. But this Dennis Sietsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Do-it-yourself work is dangerous. Death or injury can result, so don't do it. Get an estimate unless you feel comfortable that you can do the work safely, because it's not worth saving a few bucks if you have to go to the hospital or you suffer a permanent injury. Anyway, this is my little beauty boat. My father bought it new back in 1989 after my mother died tragically, suddenly. Oh man, that's a terrible story. I can't even tell it, how my mother died. And I blame a family member who interfered. A little communication might have saved my mother's life if I hadn't been told to sit down and shut up by a family member. So anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you.